TGIF, everyone. It's Jennifer Clark here on Ottawa Buzz TV, Jen Zen's show on Buzz Ottawa. Welcome you back. We're going to have another chat about Healing Through Grief, our transformational live event in Ottawa on Saturday, September 16th, a day of turning tragedy into triumph. I'm so very excited to be chatting with Anna Robson from Legal Prep. She's one of our event sponsors. She'll be talking to the group about the importance of estate planning and life admin. And as the executor of my sister's estate, my sister passed away in January at the age of 45 from cancer. I can tell you, having a will, having your life admin in order is crucial and critical to the ease and grace and flow for the loved ones. So I'm all about helping people get a will and get organized. And so is Anna Robson. Welcome to the show, Anna.
Thank you for having me over, Jennifer. I'm very happy to be part of the event, and I'm looking forward to it.
Wonderful. You know, we've crossed each other's paths in social media, and in Ottawa, we have very similar friends, and I've observed you on television doing your own events. I'm so excited to have you on stage because I know you're very passionate about helping people with ease and flow through mediation, through legal, administration, and estate planning. So what made you or inspired you to get into law? Because you have many master's degrees, you're very well educated. And you have an international vibe. So what made you kind of dive into the legal aspect?
Well, in the beginning, if you take law away from what we know it as right now as, lawyers and fighting, the beginning of law is all about helping. It's about being a strong shoulder for people when they're having trouble. And that is why I fell in love with law, because it has the opportunity, it has the potential to be that for people, to be not just a conduit for more fighting.
Yeah.
But it can be, as I said, like a strong shoulder, be there when people aren't able to be strong. And that's something that I want to be for my clients.
Wonderful. And I've heard that about you, and I've seen that in how you operate. Tell me a bit about why you think so many of us don't have a will. Are we all just thinking we're not going to die? Is it the topic so dark that people don't want to deal with it? I mean, I can kind of understand young people not thinking about it, but my sister was 45. She wasn't an old person. But I have clients who are like 80 who don't have wills. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, is there a certain time you should have a will? Like, when should someone get a will?
Well, you want to have a will when you have assets and liabilities. So if you're a 20-year-old and you already have a flourishing career and you have some things that you can give to somebody, and you have as well usually liabilities as well, that's when you have to document it all. Because people always think, if I don't have anything to leave, in terms of, let's say, heirlooms or money, then I don't need a will. But a will is not there to document all you accumulated in your life. It is more about organizing what you have in life, the good and the bad, and then putting it on paper so that, as you said, the executor knows where to find all of this information. Right.
And tell me what happens, because my sister's estate lawyer, had some interesting thoughts about this. What bad thing could happen if you died without an executor or without a will? Not to scare people. I'm not trying to use that as a scare tactic, but I kind of would like to know, for my own purposes, like, what does happen? Like, if someone had just passed and no one can find anything.
Well, I have two answers to that question. First of all, I believe in not operating from a place of this is the worst things that will happen.
Sure.
Because I find it not to be a very good motivator for people, because we first of all, people do feel that they're indestructible, and we want to exist on hope, not on the potential of misery.
Sure.
So I agree with that, not looking for the worst. In terms of what the worst is the loss of control over what you have. So if it goes into the worst that can happen is probate, the freezing of the assets by the government. So, and once you lose the control, the government takes over, makes the decisions for you, and then it pays itself handsomely to go on for the work they did. Right from your own estate, right? So that is pretty much the worst. It's none of the things that you probably wanted to see, even if, let's say, all you have is like, 2 plates that you love dearly. they don't have any, you know, monetary value to anybody besides well, maybe not even you, right? But it has some kind of value to you, sentimental, emotional, mental, you know, and you wanted to pass somebody those good feelings, right? That's you know, that's the control you have. You can make sure that that plate goes to whoever it is you want.
Yes.
You know, and you know, and obviously the more assets you have, the more responsibilities you have. You
Like we
know,
talk about, I know my sister was a divorced woman, and she worked for the government of Canada. So luckily she had like somewhat of a, like, not a cushion, but you know, like I could call someone, I could get information. But they all wanted the will. They all wanted her divorce papers. I actually had to have a copy, even though she was divorced a long time ago. And I had to have a copy of the will for pretty much everybody I dealt with. Banks, you know, creditors, like her government, like her boss. And I thought to myself, wow, if she didn't have all this, you know, it would have made my process just so much more traumatic. It already was complicated enough, you know, and because you're grieving. This is where I wanted estate planning to be part of our healing through grief, not out of fear, like you're saying, but more out of, look, if you love your loved ones, take the time. It doesn't take that long to do, and you know, put something on paper, get it notarized, go to a you know, go to Anna, go to someone, get something done. Especially obviously if you have children, right?
Yes, of course.
For me, if you're common law as well, or married, like if your assets are somehow tied to someone else's, or if your income, you know, is connected to someone else's input, I think that would be very useful. When people come to you, are they mindfully aware of what they're doing, or do you think that you have to do some coaching to get them to a place of talking about it? Like, or is this an awkward conversation for you?
It is not an awkward conversation because the main thing I hear about wills is that it's a morbid topic. And for me, because I don't consider it a morbid topic, and I can break down why it's not a morbid topic. And I don't usually work with people who need convincing that they need this, because we all have a moment when we are ready for everything, right? So I just like to share the information I have, and I make them, I mean, the people who come to me know that I am here whenever they're ready. But I want them to understand that this is not a morbid topic, you know. And I think that that's something that people don't understand, is that how simple the process is, you know. And
so
I think that's,
tell us about it. Tell us about the process.
Well, the process is very simple. Once I meet with somebody who is ready to have a will, I go over with them about what that means, because I would never just write a last will. I would create a package of last will, a living will, which is the power of attorney for health, and then the power of attorney for property and financials. So that's 3 documents that we all have to have, on top of all the other documents we need to have, like insurance, and this is what I call life admin, you know, all those very important, you know, documents in our bureaucratic world. All right. So and once I explain that to them, and they understand why they need all of those things, I explain the process, and the process is different for each document. And we start with the last will, and I will meet with them. I will ascertain what kind of needs they have, and I will create a very personalized list of questions that I will need to start the answer to start writing the will, you know. So, you know, and people are very surprised sometimes about what kind of information goes into the last will, because everybody thinks, oh, well, I will just leave it to my, you know, my wife or my friend, my sister, my brother, right? But then even the topic of choosing your executor is something that I work with my clients to explain to them, that don't choose somebody who could be so bereft that for them this is going to be a nightmare. If they need time to grieve, you need to have a secondary executor, so they will be able to pass this role to somebody else. Because, and I'm sure at this point, you know, it's a very, very difficult administrative job. It's a full-time job that you take on. Right. So once we go over that, and then people are surprised that I request information on auto insurance, home insurance, pets, rehoming of pets, you know. You know,
Yes.
and if you're a business owner, you know, I put all the passwords have to go. Confidential documents, what are you going to do with them?
Right.
How are
Right.
your clients and colleagues to be notified? You know, we
Right.
all have preferences, especially somebody, let's say in my field, I have very sensitive confidential documents.
Sure. Yeah.
Right, so I have to, in my will, and I have had will since I was 25 because I had assets and liabilities at that point.
Yeah.
I have put what to do with, first of all, where they are, all the passwords to the actual confidential documents, and then, you know, what to do with the documents. So how they are to be destroyed, how soon after my passing they are to be destroyed.
Wow. I never thought about the password. I mean, obviously, I know about that because that was part of our problem with my sister. I didn't have her passwords. And luckily we had her phone and her password to her phone, and lots of it was online. Like I could just, you know, like be her for a while until I could figure it out. But that's a very interesting, yeah, I wouldn't know. I don't even know my own passwords, let alone, you know, how do I give this to someone who's going to come after me? But tell us how does a divorced couple protect a child? I had that email coming from someone on my group, Ottawa Soul Sisters. They wanted me to ask you a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Again, this is general. When people are divorcing, there's a child who's a minor, but they want to protect that child. What do you do for a minor child?
Well, they need to decide. First of all, they usually have divorce settlement for, you know, for the child. So there's already something that's legally binding by the courts of Canada, you know, who has custody and how much and for whatever reason. So that will go into the will. And then, you know, if they want the other parent to be in the sole custody, if something happens to them, that goes in the will.
Yeah.
And then again, there is always an issue if they're divorced, but they don't want the other parent to be the sole custody owner of the child. And then it's a big conversation we usually have through mediation, you know, because let's say I had a child and I wanted my mom to be the guardian instead of his father. Then that is quite a difficult conversation to have, right? And of course, there are stipulations on maybe if I feel that the partner will can be a better father if he does so and so, that can go in the will as well.
Right.
So it's all about conversations, in my experience with people, is that you need to know why you're doing this, if you're and for what purposes, and to be aware that you might have to make difficult choices. And again, we don't expect to die usually in the next few years, right? So I think, and that's my own experience, and I have, you know, other colleagues who disagree with me. I think a will needs to be redone every 2-3 years anyway, because new information comes in. We buy houses.
Yeah, my next question is how often, like you've had your will since 25, I'm sure your life has changed, you know, in that time. So
well, I got married since then, you know.
Right. So those codicils are like, how does one just make an amendment to a will?
Well, I would only make amendments, you know, as they go. But then at some point, there are just too many codicils and amendments, and it needs to be redone. For most of us, I would say it's 2-3 years, because we buy houses, we move houses, we inherit our elderly parents' care, you know. So we become their guardians in a sense.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So things change rapidly nowadays, right? It's not like 100 years ago when life was very stable.
Right.
So I say for most of us, and of course there are exceptions to the rule, it is 2-3 years that we need to update it anyway.
Yeah. And can we talk in general? Let me just, so everyone listening, I'm asking a general question. What is the range of the cost of a will for, like, I know there's no average will because everyone's different. But is there a starting point? Is there, you know, like, is there a general idea?
Yeah. Yes, and it depends if it's a single will or if it's a couple will. I don't do a joint will ever. I think everybody needs to have their own set of documents. Even if everything is intertwined and they mirror each other, I think it's easier for any executor if they mirror each other but are separate documents.
That's a good point.
So I would say that it starts at 500 to 600, depending on for single, depending on how simple it is. If you're a business owner with extra liabilities, and then it goes up and to 1,000 for a couple. And then it can go up to 2,500 if they are particularly complicated. And if I have to spend, let's say, 30 hours with them because they keep on coming back and they renegotiated something between each other and they argue, and you know, especially some people like, oh, come to me and I want a 30-page you know, will because I have to absolutely outline everything. Yeah, it can go up to several thousand if I have to spend that much time writing it all out.
Sure. And again, it's a good conversation to have, just to have an average idea, like a working number. And again, you know your own needs and particularities. And that is, of course, you're going to be on stage talking to us more about this on September 16th, Healing Through Grief event. So for everyone who is coming to the event, tickets are on sale now. The hyperlink is going to be attached to this video. We are starting to sell fast, so I'm excited. People are starting to realize it's we're like 23 days away. So super excited to have Anna and all the other sponsors and our experts and our healing agents on stage. Really, it's 8 hours of transformation for the price of a 1-hour session. So I think it's fantastic value, and they get to meet you and meet you in person and talk a bit about what their specific, what services you can provide them tailored to their own needs. I think it's wonderful. And I'm really, really excited to see you on stage and share space with you, because I do get a sense, I think everyone does listening to you, Anna, you really do care. For you, it's helping people through a difficult stage. And that's our mantra, is healing through. We're getting you through something. That grief on whatever level is a state of being that's temporary. It's not meant to be the rest of your life. You know, it's meant to shift into something else. And the death of a loved one, I know fully well, will change your life forever. But life goes on. And what we say here in the workshop, the event Healing Through Grief, is your life is calling you back. You know, are you going to answer? And I think you're one of the wonderful components to it. Again, an important topic, even though people don't like to talk about it. I think you're going to help people reframe that. So thank you so much, Anna Robson. People can check out your website, legalprepottawa.com. Again, you're on our website, powerpassionpurpose.ca, Healing Through Grief event. The tickets are on sale now. Anna Robson, thank you so much. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. Thank you for asking all the interesting questions. I love it.
Yeah, and we'll be asking you more on September 16th.
It's my favorite thing in the world, questions and ideas and dialogue. That's what I exist for. So
wonderful.
I'm very happy
Excellent.
to be
So we'll throw all the questions at you then.
Wonderful.
All right, guys, TGIF, have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Ottawa Buzz TV.